Jeff asks, what makes a college football game good? A lot of analysts and media members said that Red River last year was one of the best games of the year. After rewatching it, my biggest takeaway was the sloppy play, the missed tackles, the lack of physicality on both lines of scrimmage. To me, a good game is more about the execution and talent and less about the closeness of the score or a lot of points. Thanks for all the content, and go Dogs. Sorry, I meant go national champion Dogs. Jeff.
Georgia fan hating on the Big 12. Not physical enough. Shocker.
I mean, that's on the nose type analysis there from Jeff.
I wonder if he liked the Rose Bowl, which they beat Oklahoma in overtime, which was all kind of offense all over the place.
Lots of good tackling.
What makes a game good? Like Danny, what makes a college football game good to you?
I think like when he brought up the Red River rivalry game, I thought that game was awesome because I think rivalry matters. Like I'm into the whole big picture. Like you want rivalry atmosphere. Like what kind of fan support are you getting? Because trust me, when I was cutting my teeth, I called some great MAC games, and MACtion was in but it was freezing out. There were like 4,000 people in the stands. I was like, man, you can have this game. I'll take another game any time of the week. No offense. So I think that matters, but I also think a healthy balance of both. Like I want to see good offensive play. I'd like to see good defensive plays made as well. I'd love to see good quarterback play. And I think for me, what always draws me in is a game that you don't know the finish in the fourth quarter. Like it's got to be up for grabs with lead changes, whatever else you want to go to it. That's why I thought the NFL playoffs were insane after they got past the first round, because I thought they delivered on a lot of those. Like my standard for what you look for, I think would be there.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What you said with lead change is right where my argument starts, which is I want to see punch, counter punch. I want to see the exchange. I want to have different rounds go to different fighters. I want to be able to see the adjustments at halftime. It doesn't need to be a last second finish. You might kneel it out, but if we've had those changes, if you've got those lead changes, if you've got that punch, counter punch, if you've got the real battle going on between both teams, I don't care whether it's Iowa, Wisconsin, or whether it's the Red River. There are different ways that you can have that kind of competition, because that to me is what makes a game good, is when the competition is really, really good. You can have lesser talent produce a really good football game. You can have both rosters and both starting lineups filled with future NFL draft picks and have a good game or a bad game. But to me, a college football game is good, and I find myself compelled and intrigued when you have that back and forth shifting of who's got the game in hand. They're letting go of the rope a little bit. Just so much about it needs to be a back and forth between the two teams. That's probably at the core of what my argument would be.
Yeah, I think Chip and everybody really nailed it. Like, I don't need to have lead changes. I need to have like win probability changes. I don't mean to get nerdy here, but like, okay, if you get down in the red zone and it looks like you're going to take the lead, and instead you have to settle for a field goal, or you actually get stopped or have a turnover. Yeah, exactly. Like there needs to be the threat of a lead change. That the game probably needs to be in the balance with 15 minutes left. I would say. I don't want guys running wide ass open unless they've been schemed that way. Like not just horrendous coverage busts. Which you had some of both in Red River. To be fair, I don't really enjoy the extreme defensive slugfest in the sport of college football, mainly because it's not that hard to score points if you're well coached and you're executing. The rules really do favor scoring some points. So like you could tell me, hey, 9-6 was a great defensive game. That's also legitimately bad offense in almost
bad
any
quarterback
instance.
play.
Yeah, exactly. So like I don't remember the last time that I really, really enjoyed a game with fewer than 30 points total, right? Not per team, but just overall. Like find me a game that has fewer than 30 points total, and I'll find you a game with some really poor quarterback play and just bad offensive execution, in addition to probably really good defensive play.
I enjoyed the hell out of Wisconsin Penn State last year. I don't think that got over 30.
But that did have some fun stuff, like incredible, like good long drives, and then just horrendous red zone turnovers.
I'll say that. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just going to say, because I've had some fun with this, asking people, like asking fans of teams, if you were, let's say you're a Georgia fan, you ponied up all this money out to watch the game versus Alabama. Would you rather see a completely dominant, 41-14 blowout? Or would you rather be on the edge of your seat, like, just sweating it out all game and you win late? And I was surprised at how many people say just like, because I would be upset if I shelled out a bunch of money, not upset, but I wouldn't feel as fulfilled if it was 41-14 and be like, I kind of want to see a good game. And a lot of Georgia fans are like, nope, I don't care. Like, we got the championship, like that's how far I'll go. Cause I've always wanted, like, I have a buddy that's a Bama fan that has been to like I would say since he was a kid, he's in his 40s, since he was like 13, he hasn't missed an Alabama home game. I'm like, does that get fun? Like, what? Like, is it still fun for you to watch them, in every game, not just LSU, every single game when they're blowing out opponents? Like, yeah, we love it. I'm like, that's not me. Like, I need to see. And I think that does speak to why Saban is calling out students like, hey, we need to stick around. We need to make sure we get good atmospheres when we are a 30-point favorite. So I always thought that was interesting because some fans are like, I don't care. I just want to win. And even as a fan of my home team, I still enjoy a game more if it's close and hard fought.
So I think the only time you can ever really enjoy a blowout is when it's your team doing the blowing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as an Illini and a Bears fan, every couple of years I get to really enjoy a football game. But
when they play an FCS team,
it's like that 1 week every September, it's like, woo, this game's awesome. But I think, honestly, I agree with you guys on most everything that you've said as far as what makes a good game. Like, you want there to be some kind of jeopardy for either side at the end of the game and drama and that kind of stuff. And especially with college, like, if you're turning into a college football game expecting precise and perfect play, then you're watching the wrong sport because it's college football. There's going to be mistakes made all the freaking time. And a lot of the mistakes are, they're not flaws as much as they're part of, they're what's the saying I'm thinking of? They're a feature, not a flaw. And they make the game more entertaining and fun, and they provide that kind of jeopardy and drama and that kind of swing. I will say to the other side, I can enjoy most games, but what kills a game for me is officiating. Like, the over review, like reviewing everything, or just terrible calls. Like, an official can ruin a football game for me quicker than anything, like a blown coverage or a missed tackle or a bad play. Just spending 10 minutes trying to figure out whether it was targeting or just missing blatant calls or just like needless pass interference penalties and that kind of stuff. That ruins a game far more than anything for me.
Jordan brought up an interesting thing. He said, open the dome.
Mm-hmm.
Ideal weather conditions to see a good game.
If I'm in the stadium, roof closed, 75 degrees. If I'm watching on TV, whatever makes the game fun. Like, whether it's like we've seen games in rainstorms, like Brian Kelly throwing 80 times into a hurricane, snow games, stuff like that. Just because, like, when you watch, like, how much football do we watch in a week? Like, I understand I understand that we're not like the normal target of a person who's watching college football. Like, they might watch 2 or 3 games, whereas we're watching like 1,000 games. But just like anything like that makes it different is always going to be fun to me. So like a game in snow might be a terrible football game as far as the actual play, but just seeing it, it's like, this is different. This is fun. I enjoy this. Kind of like the Illinois Penn State going to 9 overtimes. It was a terrible football game, but it was different and fun because of it.
Football is a really silly sport at its core, right? I mean, just trying to get 11 human beings to all be on the same page, go run around fast, follow instructions. And you're asking college kids to do it? Amazing. We can get any yards, get any kind of play going. I'm with you, Tom. They're not we are talking about paying them down the line because of the way the sport has exploded and the money in the sport, but there's still 18 to 22-year-olds that are out there being asked to function at a fast pace in a high pressure environment.